Welcome back to the Draft and Stash, your one-stop shop for NBA news, but also all of your Memphis Grizzlies news. Joining me as always is Frank.
Hey.
On today's show, we are doing something very special. It's mock draft season, but before that, we got to hit that intro, man.
Morant with a running start. Oh my goodness!
Today's show is double special as we have a guest, Chip Williams from I Got a Ball podcast, and our draft guru. Chip, how are we doing today, man?
Great, man. Appreciate you guys having me on. Excited to do some mock with you.
Dude, it's crazy because I feel like I've been talking about you so much that you're almost like a mythical, person or whatever, but like it's not like, you are actually real. So like, I'm not like a crazy person or anything. I know in the past we have talked about that. This is kind of like our favorite part about basketball is the draft season and everything. Are you in the bandwagon that the Thunder and Pelicans are so far like ahead of the curve because of all of their extra draft picks? Or do you think it's a little like overblown?
I definitely think you always want to have more shots at a good player, and the way you get that is by accumulating draft picks. Now, both those teams have like beyond what is a lot of draft picks. They have more draft picks than probably several teams combined. I mean, the Grizzlies have a couple of extra draft picks coming up over the next few years, but I mean, these guys, what they've gotten for Drew Holiday and Paul George and some of the trades that they've made, I don't see how they're going to make all of them, but I think what that'll give them is an opportunity to flip some of those for, a veteran if they ever reach that point.
I mean, I think it always sounds really like fun and sexy to have a bunch of draft picks, but as we've seen in the past, Boston, I don't want to say failed, but they were the first real team to start like amassing picks based on things. And the last three drafts, they've tried to actually package a lot of those picks, like a move up for a player or something, and it just hasn't happened. I think it's easy on paper to say, oh, this is really great. But at the end of the day, you can't have 19 rookies, so it's it's going to have to be a mixture of vets of certain ages or whatever, which is why I'm kind of like on the fence about the whole like not an hour like a timeline thing where it's like, like people don't want to bring in players who were like 28 and 29 because John and Jaren are both like, 20, like 21. I mean, like, I think you have to like amass people who are just really good. Regardless of age. Now that said, I don't want to go get like a 37-year-old, like guy or anything or whatever. But I mean, like if a guy like Oladipo is available, I would not be opposed to that based strictly on like his age. Now, I also don't want to pay him $400 million, a year or whatever and stuff. But I think it's all about the current opportunity, I guess, or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and, Philly was another team that did that with the process, and you see both those teams, they hit on some high picks. But what I think is such a credit to what the Grizzlies front office has done since this new regime came in is hitting on the later picks. That's the hardest part in the draft because it gets to be such a crapshoot. We've seen that from the Celtics. As soon as they reached a certain level, started getting into the playoffs. Now, some of these rookies that they hoped would come in and be able to help them take that next leap, they haven't been able to do it. So Grizzlies hitting on some of these late picks is it's impressive because it is a bit of a crapshoot once you get that late in the draft.
And not only that, but we've seen teams like the Kings and the Suns have multiple top 10 picks in multiple drafts and just miss on everything.
Yep.
So it's nice to have those picks, but you have to have a front office that knows what the hell is going on. But back in 2017, when we did like our very first episode, they drafted like Dragan Bender, and I think they moved up to get Chris.
Yeah.
And both were just huge flops. So, it's hard. It doesn't matter if you're pick 2 or 4, 6 sometimes, it's still like a crapshoot.
It definitely is.
So let's move on to the fun part, and that is the mock draft. Guys, what we're going to do is we are on the NBA Real GM here. It's going to allow us to create our own lottery simulation, so we don't even know which teams it's going to be. But the pick order is going to be Frank, Chip, and then myself, and we will continue in that order until we get through it. We're going to be doing the entire first round. We're going to try to move as fast as we can, but this will probably be 2 videos, 1 lottery, 1 first round here. So let us find out what the order is going to be here, actually. So OKC is going to be first from the Houston pick. Apparently, that's a huge jump there, man. So Frank, you get the first pick here, man. Who's it going to be, dude?
All right. Well, you look at OKC, what they need. It's definitely not a point guard. They got SGA. He's the guy of the future for them. But, I think you look at the top of the draft, and there's three guys that have kind of separated themselves. Evan Mobley, Cade Cunningham, and Jalen Suggs, at least in my eyes. And I think you'd be hard-pressed to kind of take – I don't know. I want to go with Cade Cunningham here, but for team fit, Evan Mobley might be better. They're in dire need of a big man. I think Cade Cunningham's the top overall prospect, hands down, though. Let me break out the old tuning fork. See what. Okay, we're gonna go Cade Cunningham.
Okay,
6'8" guard, playmaking, elite vision. Spacing might be a problem for him in the NBA. He's 6'8". He's struggled in a too big offense in college, but I think the skills he's got, he's a good shooter. He's developed into a good shooter, excellent free throw shooter, amazing playmaker. Taking him at the top of the draft, I think you'd be hard pressed to find anyone better. And I think the OKC would be happy to take him. And also, just talking a little bit more about SGA. Yeah, the fit's not great with a 6'8" point guard. But I think both of these guys have the capability to play the off-ball position. And I think that would be a pretty scary two-guard lineup. If you have two guys with the wingspan, I think we've talked about it before with SGA. He's got sort of like an alien-esque wingspan. It's kind of a similar thing here with Cade Cunningham. He's got an over 7-foot wingspan. Crazy athlete. I think it'd be a really scary backcourt.
Chip and I have talked about this, and I'm not the biggest fan of Cunningham. Now I see all of his tools. I see that he's going to be a very successful player, and he'll be like I've kind of joked that he's like an Evan Turner 2.0 or whatever. I just don't see next level speed from him, which
that's the knock against him.
Maybe it won't be a factor. Maybe it will. To me, if I'm number one, I want to get a guy that has a huge shot at being like a top player in the next 5 years or so, whatever. And so Cade for me is in my top three. He's not my number one though. Chip, you're a huge fan. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I love Cade. I do think that you guys are right. There's kind of 3 or 4 guys who are starting to separate themselves from everyone else in this draft. But to me, it's Cade came in day one as the best prospect in this class, and he's done nothing to lose that. In fact, what he's shown as a shooter is significantly better than I think anyone thought coming in. It's
but yeah.
Yeah, and he's really, really got a pretty impressive shooting season as a freshman at Oklahoma State. And it's kind of a unique situation. We've seen this with Markelle Fultz went to Washington, Ben Simmons went to LSU. Some of these guys who come in as high picks, they're going to these non-traditional powers, right? And they're relied on so much so early to produce at a high level, and Cade's done that. And so the fit, I love SGA. I'm president of the SGA fan club. He's one of my favorite dudes to watch in the league. So pairing him with Cade, that's awesome. I got to say, as the guy who owns the next pick, I was really hoping you were going to go with Evan Mobley, but I understand why you went with Cade.
So are you not concerned at all that his turnover numbers are above his assist numbers?
Yeah, that is definitely the most concerning part. It's the most disappointing part. But again, I think you can explain it away a little bit with the fact that he so much is thrown on his shoulders offensively at a young age at Oklahoma State. And look, he's not going to walk in the league and be an all-star year one. But I think we've seen it. He reminds you a little bit of a Luka Doncic in terms of a really big guy who can play a lot of different positions. Really, he can fit with whatever else is around your team. And then the shooting, it also just opens up the offense and opens up the options that a coach can throw out there. So I think long term, the playmaking that he has does not concern me. But yeah, you're right. That is definitely something you need to talk about because it's been disappointing.
That he could be like another version of Ben Simmons with a better jumper. Which if that's the case, then yeah, he's obviously top guy or whatever and stuff.
Not quite the athlete Ben Simmons is, I don't think.
Yeah, that's totally fair. So you're on the board here. Number 2, it's the Minnesota Timberwolves. So the Warriors don't get that pick. Who do you got?
Yeah, this is tough. I like Evan Mobley as probably the second best player on the board. But with Towns, it just doesn't make a ton of sense. So I'm actually going to go with one of my favorites, Jalen Suggs, the point guard or combo guard from Gonzaga. I love Jalen Suggs. He's big, physical, strong guy. If he had been in this previous year's draft, the 2020 draft, he probably would have been the consensus best player in that draft. There's a lot to like about him. The shooting hasn't been, I think, what some people think it could be. But what he's done, sliding into probably the best college basketball team in the country, really taking a leadership role, putting up phenomenal numbers. There's a lot to like. It honestly, to be frank with you, from a Minnesota perspective, it makes D'Angelo Russell a little expendable, and now you can shop him around and see what you can add around Towns, Suggs, and Anthony Edwards.
It's so funny that so they didn't take Ball, who was the obvious choice there or whatever.
Yeah.
Because like Russell and Towns are like friends, and so and the whole thing it was making Towns happy, but they still suck. And so now, like there's another great guard. They're like, oh well, let's pass on like another good guard because we have Russell, and it's like Russell's one of the worst players on defense in the entire NBA. Like he's just awful at it or whatever. So I mean, as long as he's there and Beasley's there and Towns there, they're going to get exposed nightly. So I mean, like Suggs, I think him or Cade will be great there. I love Suggs. I originally I thought it was like a lot of hype, and then I've watched a few of his games, and he makes so many smart plays. He gets better. He hits the glass. He can his athleticism is not next level great, but it's better than Cade's. So I'm not worried about him, like having problems passing people and stuff or whatever. But he's very good also.
Yeah. Yeah, I can say again, as the Timberwolves' new general manager, we're very happy with Jalen Suggs.
And we're also moving on. All right. So I guess we picked 3, and I am a huge fan of Jalen Green. He is my guy. I look at him, and I mentioned to Frank that I think he's like a better version of like Nick Young. And like Nick Young came in like years ago, and it was like top level, like high school project. He never quite hit that next level, and I think it's because he wasn't like a great worker. Jalen Green to me looks like that dude who could be a top player or whatever, in this league, not like a Kobe Bryant level like guy or whatever, but he has all the tools physically or whatever. He he's not great at defense. He's kind of small body right now, but I think eventually he'll get there. And he's looked good, for the like in G League team and stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm a huge Jalen Green fan. You mentioned his body. I think that's what stood out the most watching him go up against adults. He will try to drive into the paint, and all of a sudden he just bounces off some guy. And so you can clearly see that he's going to need to put on some weight and some strength, but that talent's undeniable. The leaping ability, he's got a pretty smooth shot.
His handle's nice or whatever. His game, it's just he has all the tools necessary at this level, and then more. It's just he's not physically ready yet to actually be like a stud. So it's almost like a Brandon Ingram. It's like he came in and clearly had talent, but it took him 2-3 years to like finally like get there and stuff. Whatever. So I could easily see Green being like a top 10 guy like in 3 or 4 years or so.
There's a couple knocks against him. Like he's a scorer, but he plays kind of an ISO heavy game. His defense is a little inconsistent times at times. We've seen it in the G League, but I think what you guys are saying is right. If he can kind of fill out that 6'5" frame, get a little bit stronger, handle the much bigger guys in the NBA, the defense will start to get a little bit better. And I think in an NBA offense, ISO heavy ball just kind of isn't the way to go. So I think it'd be worked into offenses a little bit better as well.
Well, we are back to Frank here. The board is yours, man. You are the Pistons right now.
Drafting for the Pistons. All right. It's kind of a blank slate with those guys. So we've got Jalen Suggs, Jalen Green, Cade Cunningham off the board. So I think Evan Mobley needs to go here, especially because the the Pistons are in need of a center, a young center. What can you say about the dude? He's a 7-foot stud. He plays excellent defense. His offensive game was developing throughout his 1 year in college. And 16.2. Look at the stats. Just fills it up. 58.2% field goal percentage. Excellent. And I think he'd be an excellent fit there.
He's another guy that I think needs to add muscle. It's weird because we were talking earlier that like a lot of these guys are like 6'4", not 6'5", but nobody's built like men anymore. Almost, it's like that they come in and they're so used to being like these like high level fast guys, whatever that like they're all like kind of like these like thin like builds now. So like a guy like Xavier Tillman comes in and looks like a 30-year-old man already.
Yeah.
Because Mobley has a lot of talent, awesome athlete, very smart. But yeah, I worry about him getting on. Like, who's the kid for the Pelicans? Jason Alexander, right? Wrong?
Jackson Hayes.
Yeah.
Close.
Yeah, I was like Jay's in there. He is kind of like in that same camp where he has obvious talent, but like his body doesn't let him really like be like on the court. He gets bodied easily. So I mean, like Mobley has way more talent than him, though. I like but yeah,
he's got like franchise center potential. Honestly, man, like you look at the kid, he could really develop into a stud.
I totally agree. He's one of my favorites in this whole draft. I think he could possibly be some sort of evolution of like a Duncan-ish player who's just a smooth operator on both ends. Tremendous. He can really be the anchor of a defense, but also can kind of be the guy an offense goes through. He's got a nice looking stroke. You think that's going to develop. Really just a smooth, comfortable player who's got a lot of functional athleticism. I think the guy's going to be a stud pretty early on at the next level.
Okay. Do you like the fit for the Pistons?
Yeah, I mean, they took Killian Hayes last year, so you got the point guard. Sekou Doumbouya's had some moments where he's looked pretty good. So, yeah, I mean, you can start to see where you're building a team there.
All right. I believe Chip has the next pick here, and that's our board right there for right now for anybody who's wondering.
Orlando.
You are Orlando.
Wow. Okay. Orlando. That's interesting. Let's give them Jonathan Kuminga, Jalen Green's teammate with the Ignite. Of course, right. We need another big-bodied, athletic guy in Orlando. So let's just go ahead and give him one more. Now, I like Kuminga, and he's honestly, to me, he's been probably the Ignite's best player throughout the totality of the G League season. 6'8", 230 pounds, 7-foot wingspan. Explosive in the open court. He can shoot a little bit. He's actually shown some interesting shooting upside, something that a little bit like with Cunningham that has surprised me some. And then defensively, he should be able to switch just about 1 through 5. I mean, he's going to be a Swiss Army knife on that end. So yeah, let's go ahead. They've got a little something going there in Orlando. I like, Markelle Fultz. It's really disappointing that he got injured this season because he looked like he was starting to put it together. So Kuminga, from the G League Ignite. Let's send him to Orlando.
You had I'm sorry that like I was saying that like most of these guys have like small builds. Like he's not one of those guys. Like,
no,
that like man body, and everything early on. So like he'll be able to come in immediately like and bang and stuff over. So like it'll be nice.
And he's super young, man. I think the youngest guy in the draft. He's like 18 still.
Yeah,
comes in. He has massive potential to just keep building on his game. So, but I think talking a little bit about the fit in Orlando. Could be a really, really, really strong backcourt or front court with him and healthy Jonathan Isaac. He's been out for the season. Jonathan Isaac is basically a 7-footer. He's listed as a power forward, but he could play a modern 5, and Kuminga would slide right next to him. I think it'd be a great fit. So I think good pick.
All right, so the Kings are up next. Man, like I love Fox. Bagley's kind of been like a disappointment. So far.
Yeah.
Look at players here, and I don't know if Buddy Hield is their future there. It might be like Halliburton. So I'm trying to think of probably like a good wing for them that could work. I like Zaire Lynn. I don't know if he should go this high. Jalen Johnson might be that guy for me. I think he has a lot of the tools. My biggest complaint with him is his motor. We've seen that Duke has kind of gotten better since he's been gone, which is very, very weird, to think. But like guys like him do not come along very often. He's got great size, great athlete. He seems very capable in like most ways. He wasn't as good as Duke had hoped. His scoring wasn't as like effortless as I think that they were hoping that like it would be. But I think he's a really good prospect still.
Yeah, I think he's got quite a ways to go on the offensive end before he makes a big impact in the NBA. But we're talking about guys who come in NBA ready. Like, no one's going to push this guy around day one. Like, he comes in ready to play on the defensive end. And another guy similar to Kuminga in this way, where you expect him to be able to really switch pretty fluidly 1 through 5 on the defensive end and be able to guard anybody. So if you can just work with him offensively, have some patience, kind of help him come along there, I think that this guy could turn out to be a pretty fun pro.
Yeah, I like Jalen Johnson on the Kings. I think he slides in pretty well there. They have Buddy Hield, De'Aaron Fox as their point guard, Tyrese Halliburton they just took last year. So they have a lot of smaller guards. I think a wing, like you've mentioned like you said before, I think it is a good pick for him here. They do need the size. So,
all right, awesome. I think Frank is the next guy here. That is our big board so far. So you have the Wizards at 7.
The Wiz.
Wizards.
So yeah, just looking at a couple of their young guys they've taken. I know they're sort of still in the playoff push, but pretty soon here they're going to be looking at a rebuild. I think Beal's not long for Washington, regardless of what his agent says. So they have Denny Avdia. I think I'm saying that correctly.
Yeah.
The shooting guard has some good size, some skill. He's had sort of a okay first year, but he looks like he has the tools to succeed in the NBA. So they'll be moving forward with him. Same with Rui Hachimura. He's had a quiet start to his career, but again, he's a guy that puts in solid stats every night. Contributes to winning basketball more often than not. So I think both of those guys moving forward will be good for them. So taking that into account, I think they do need a point guard. I know they have Russ, but again, I don't think he's long for them. So I'm just going to take the best point guard off the board here, in my opinion, Sharif Cooper from Auburn. 5'10", so he's a little small for the NBA, but he's got a tremendous amount of skill, and he's slide in there, fit well with these two young guys that they're trying to bring up. So I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
What do you think, Drew?
Sure. So Cooper's great. I think he come on kind of late because of like violations or something, and ever since he's gotten there, he's looked like the best point guard so far. And I mean, like his numbers are great. He looks like a next level talent on the court. He immediately made Auburn like relevant. I think that either a point guard or a wing there is also good. I wouldn't have minded if you had gone with like Scotty Barnes or something, there. But Cooper could be like a long-term guy there as well. So I don't know.
I like Sharif Cooper. He's a bit of a high volume, big stats kind of guy. But he's really fun. And like you mentioned, he had the eligibility issues. So he got a little bit of a late start, but man, he burst right on the scene and just started really killing it, frankly. And he's undersized a little bit. So there's definitely some knocks on him and some hesitations of how that'll translate when he's going against guys that are 6'3", 6'4", 6'5" every night. But man, what you cannot take away anything he's done at Auburn, because he's been phenomenal and really elevated that team to a new level.
It's so weird that 6'1" now is like undersized.
Yeah, I know, right?
5'9". Now it's like got to be 6'3" just to like play like point guard now.
Look at Ja. Ja's 6'3" and he looks tiny out there.
Yeah, he does look tiny.
It's amazing.
All right. So moving on from there, I believe Chip has the next pick, and that is the terrible Pelicans that we all hate.
Oh, wow. The Pelicans. Okay. It's kind of interesting with them. So I'm actually going to take probably my favorite prospect to end up if the Grizzlies are able to get relatively high. I'm going to take my favorite guy for them. That's Moses Moody from Arkansas.
Oh, you bastard. Okay. My God.
Moses Moody if you just kind of looked up in the dictionary a 3-and-D wing, it's going to have Moses Moody right next to it. He is really what the Pelicans need, I think. They have plenty of stars, I think, on this team between Ingram and Zion. Just those two guys alone, I mean, they're going to take a whole lot of shots. And the offense is really going to run through them. But you put a guy like Moses Moody, who has ideal size, should be able to defend in the NBA, already a high volume, good shooter, and has played really well his one season in Arkansas. I think it's a perfect fit for the Pelicans. And I think, like I said, if the Grizzlies were able to creep up this high, I think it'd be a perfect fit for them as well.
It's annoying because for a while there, he was like not in the top 10. And so I was like, okay, cool. There's a chance of him, falling to us. Like, I love the idea of like wings with Desmond Bane and Moody. Like, oh my God, like they were knocking down everything. It's exactly, like how you said it is. I think he's a next level, like a 3-and-D. Like he's like a Michael Finley. He's going to come in, kill it from my outside. He's not explosive, but he's not a bad athlete. He's also very smart, plays well in the post, amazing wingspan. I think it's like a 7'1" wingspan or something as well. Just awesomely talented. And if he goes this high, I'll be very sad. All right. So it looks like I am next here. We've got the Thunder, man. The Thunder have got 19 picks here. All right. So they took Cade Cunningham in the beginning here. It's weird that they have SGA as a 2. Man, they need a wing in a bad way.
Lou Dort can't do everything for him.
Lou Dort can't do everything for him. That's true. I'm going to go with Scott Barnes here. I think he's multifaceted, that they're building a certain style down there in OKC. I think he would fit right in as like another, almost like another like version of Thabo Cephalosha, like guy. He comes in and he does everything for them. He's just like a winner. And then his shot is not great. I think it'll get there over time. His form is not bad, but he affects the game in so many ways. And I think when you're trying to rebuild, getting guys like that is the first real step before you can start taking lottery pieces that have that like high chance of like success, but also a high chance of failure. I think he's a really safe pick for him there in the top 10. And I think that like Cade Cunningham is that possible all-star. So he's a good like a Shane Battier type guy for them. Yeah,
it's funny. Like I think if you at the end of games kind of unleashed a Scotty Barnes and Lou Dort on the other team, you're going to have to like rename them like 48 Minutes of Hell, because having to go against Scotty Barnes and Lou Dort for 48 minutes sounds miserable. So yeah, I mean, dude, you're starting to build kind of a positionless team with the Thunder between SGA, Dort, Cade Cunningham, now Scotty Barnes. Like, yeah, this is what we talked about at the beginning. Having more shots at this is the way you want to go, because now you just start putting pieces together, see what works, and go from there.
Frank, any thoughts before your next pick?
I think he fits in well there. I think it's a solid pick for all the mentions you guys, or for all the reasons you guys mentioned. I think the defensive fit would be kind of scary with like Dort. They'd be shutting down some teams.
You are the Atlanta Hawks at pick 10.
Okay, so for the Hawks, again, looking at the roster, they're kind of position-wise, they're kind of balanced. They have Trae Young, John Collins, Clint Capella. What they really need is for a wing or a scorer to step up for them. And you saw it in the offseason. Coming in, they added Danilo Gallinari, Bogdan Bogdanovic, kind of looking for that type of guy. So maybe it's time to turn to the draft now to look for that kind of guy. I think right here I would take Keon Johnson from Tennessee. I think his athletic ability is incredible, one of the best athletes in the draft. And I think putting him next to Trae Young and John Collins would make for an exciting athletic team. Like, they'd be throwing lobs all day. But, he's pretty raw as a prospect. He needs to develop more consistency and sort of define his offensive game. And defense is a thing that I think he will, rely pretty heavily on his athleticism in the start of his NBA career. But he profiles as a guy that could develop into a solid defender and, that two-way wing type of guy, like I'm saying they're looking for.
He is out of the gate. He's a great physical specimen. He's got amazing size. He's already built, well. He's awesome on defense, very athletic. I think, him having a reliable jump shot is going to be the difference between him having like a 5-year career and like a 15-year, stint and everything.
For sure.
He could be great for them. They really need a wing that's not terrible at defense. They've got Bogdanovich and Herder and Gallinari,
Cam Reddish, DeAndre Hunter.
He could be like a replacement for like Collins, because it looks as if like Collins is going to get moved here. I think he could play like a 4-3 role as well.
I like Keon quite. He's got kind of a throwback game a little bit. Like
you're a Bulls fan.
Well, the way he plays offensively, I'm not comparing the two in terms of like level of player, but just the way they played coming out of college is like reminds you a little Dwayne Wade-ish. Like he's just got this ability to get in the lane and just create space and find a shot. Like it's not something we look for a lot right now. We look more towards like the Moses Moody of like, hey, this guy's going to run to a spot and we're going to penetrate, kick, and Moses Moody's going to shoot a 3. But like you can put the ball in Keon's hands and he's going to create something. And then like you guys mentioned, he's a pretty special defensive prospect. So pretty good fit next to Trey. And really, I think a guy who could maybe even take some pressure off of Trey as being really the only creator for the Hawks on the floor so much. So that's a good pick, and I really like the fit.
Is his handle as good as Wade's was in college, or is it?
No. I just in terms of like, how Wade would always try to get like 12, 10 feet from the basket, and then he would just kind of use his strength and size and create something, and just had really nice touch in that area. Keon has done a lot of the same things for Tennessee.
It's weird because you watch him play and you wonder why he didn't start from like day one.
Yeah.
But it's weird. College coaches I don't know if they like to humble people, but it's definitely they don't let freshmen have like a free run all the time.
Yeah, that's Rick Barnes, man. We could do a whole nother podcast on my frustrations with Rick Barnes.
You are the Pacers at 11. Who are we thinking here?
Oh man, so the Pacers are obviously a team that probably feels like they're pretty close to being, and they're not far off contention in the East. So I would imagine they're looking for someone that can come in pretty quickly and contribute early and, play well with Malcolm Brogdon and Sabonis and those guys. And so I'm going to give them, for my money, the best shooting prospect in this draft, and that's Corey Kispert from Gonzaga. I'm just going to see how mad I can make everybody every time I pick this. God. No, Corey Kispert is like a special shooting prospect. I mean, it just doesn't get a whole lot better than this guy, like Duncan Robinson level shooting prospect who adds some athleticism, some perfect size. I mean, not necessarily a guy you might label as a 3-and-D wing, but also a guy that's not going to get you killed on the defensive end. And he's going to be able to just come in day one, play a role, and then expand his game from that. I actually really, really like this fit for player and team.
Yeah, I was originally not a big fan of his because, as you guys know, I don't particularly like players who are white, but I think that they get like overhyped. So when I was watching, I was seeing like random like highlights of him and Suggs, and then eventually like I started to actually watch him, and he can ball, man. He's not slow at all. Like he's got great size. He's got his shot form is amazing, and not only that, it's quick. So it's not like it's like Zaire Williams' biggest thing is that like his form is great, but his whole approach is so slow. Kispert is going to be like an actual, maybe like a bigger like version of like a JJ Redick or something. He's going to come in immediately like have a role. He's also like he's not a young prospect, so he might be closer to being who he is going forward. But when you look at a guy like like a Bain, a Clark or whatever, that's not always a bad thing. Having a guy join who immediately has value, there's a lot like in that whatever. And like Kispert's going to have immediately like a role for like any club.
Yeah, the shooting alone is going to give him a role on any club. 48% on over or about 6 attempts a game. I mean, Come on, that's just elite for college. So yeah.
And it's also weird that the Zags haven't done more when they've had Brandon Clark, Corey Kispert, and like Killian Tilly.
Yeah.
Come on, guys.
What's crazy is this is probably their most talented team too. Like they're definitely the best team in the country right now. what Mark Few's doing there is pretty remarkable.
All right, so we're moving on to the Bulls at pick 12. Kobe White is great. I don't know if he is their natural point guard. Zach LaVine, who knows if he's long for them, he might get moved. I didn't like Patrick Williams last year, but who knows? Lauri Markkanen looks to be going backwards, and I still like Carter Jr. So I think that there is a good fundamentals there. There's a lot of, okay talent here. I'm just not really sure exactly what they need. I would assume a wing here. So I probably don't want to go guard. But the problem is that all the guys in this range that I'm looking at, I'm going to go with the guy on my board who's next, and that's Zaire Williams. He's had a weird year where he started out playing very, very well. I think he had a triple-double at one point. And then he got benched, and he's been playing better since he was benched. But there's so much talent there. To me, he's almost like Kyle Anderson 2.0, except with a really good jump shot. His body is going to be a big issue as well. He's also very slight, very small. He's like a 6'8", like John Morant. He's just very, very little. But at some point, I think it's worth a guy of his size and his skill set is not very common. I think you just have to roll the dice sometimes.
Yeah, he's been probably as frustrating as any of these highly talented freshmen coming in, because he was billed as a guy who could really just stroke it. And he struggled. He struggled shooting the ball. And so he's probably fallen to this point because of that. Because otherwise, you're looking at a guy with length, athleticism, shooting ability, in theory, that should be going a whole lot higher. So I really think this is a good spot, to roll the dice and just hope that the shooting becomes what a lot of people think it ultimately will become.
Yeah, talent's not an issue with Williams. I think what really needs to happen is what we've been saying. He needs to fill out that frame, because he's just not going to be able to take it from the level of physicality in the NBA, or at least translate the level of game he was playing at in college. So we'll see.
Yeah. Then I believe Frank gets the pick for the Grizzlies, man.
All right. Well, you guys left me with the scraps, because Corey Kispert would have been perfect. Yeah. And I would have even taken Zaire Williams. But, we need a wing. We need a wing. We've been trying to plug the hole with Kyle Anderson, who I love, but, maybe probably not the answer there. Justice Winslow has come in. The early returns are nice, but, we don't really know what the future is with Justice yet. So looking at what we got left, is Scotty Barnes off the board yet?
He is.
Okay. I thought so. That would have been the obvious choice there. In terms of small forwards, there's not a ton left. Up near the top of the draft, we've got Franz Wagner, Mo Wagner's brother, balling out in Michigan this past year. I think that'd be a solid choice. James Bouknight from UConn. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I'm going to go with the Euro. I'm going to go with Franz Wagner.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, I knew you were going to be against that.
I personally love Franz. He's kind of, to me, from a size and length standpoint, he's similar to Zaire, and except he's shot the ball extremely well on a very good team, and has put up really nice numbers on a very good team, and has contributed to winning on a very good team. So I love Franz. I think this is awesome. I think the guy's got size. He does exactly what the Grizzlies are looking for. To me, Frank, this was perfect. It was the obvious pick, and I'm glad that this is the direction you went.
Yeah, sorry I got cut off there for a little bit, but I was going to say I think he fits with the size and the shooting. That's really what the Grizzlies need right now from the wing position. So, and like you said, in Michigan, he's been contributing to the wins they've been getting. He looks great. He's great catch and shoot 3-point guy, which is, we've got one of the better point guards in the league to dish it out to him. So I think
exactly.
Pick.
I got him. Haha. There we go. To me, it's all right.
We finally found Franz, huh?
Finally found him. Okay, cool. Yeah. So I don't know. I think he's another just solid guy that'll come in. He kind of fits the mold that they've been doing, which is taking really smart players. And And I don't know, like he's just okay. I don't know. So like he doesn't really do anything incredibly well. I think he's just like he's like a better like Conchar, you know, like he's just gonna come in. He's got great size. He's a smart player. I don't think he's gonna hurt you out there. I just don't know if he has any one specific skill that like a Bane does or a Tillman does or something or whatever. I mean, what do you think he'll be able to like put his hat on early?
I mean, for me, he can really shoot. I mean, especially this past season, he's 39% on about 3.5 attempts per game. He does a lot of stuff. Like he impacts winning, and he's a really efficient player, really good jump shooter. And with his size, he's going to provide some lineup versatility, especially once you add Jaren Jackson back into the mix. I just think that it's another tool for Taylor Jenkins that can space the floor, gives you some size, gives you some different options and lineup versatility.
Okay.
I think ideally he'd end up being somebody like Mike Dunleavy Jr., just tall, can knock down shots.
Yeah.
You know.
My pick would have been Josh Christopher. I think he is he's like a walking bucket. Consistency is an issue with him, but like we'll talk about him when he gets picked. I believe Chip is next here.
Who do we got? Is it Golden State?
You are Golden State. They are pick 14.
Wow. Okay. I'm going to just give him a guy that they don't need, but I can't believe he slipped this far, and that's Jaden Springer from Tennessee. I think Springer, look, like I said, like I can't even justify it. Like they have Steph Curry. I know that they don't need a lead guard, and they have Klay Thompson. So it's going to be tough for him initially, I think, to crack the rotation. But this is just the best guy on the draft, best guy on the board left in the draft. I think Springer ultimately for me is going to be pretty comfortably a top 10 guy and maybe even knocking on the door of like a top 6-7 guy. Originally, I thought I was going to be much higher on Keon Johnson of the two Tennessee prospects. And I've really, really enjoyed watching Springer play. And if you've kept up with Tennessee season at all, that he missed a few games and their offense just could not create anything, just completely out of sync. They need this guy to basically do everything for them, create shots for himself, create shots for his teammates. I mean, you're looking at a guy who's almost a 50, 47, 80 shooting splits, which is pretty remarkable for a freshman coming into the SEC. And yeah, I think the guy's got immense talent to be either a lead guard or play next to a point guard at the NBA level. And again, like I said, Golden State doesn't need him, but I can't in good faith let this guy slip any further. So I'm taking him.
So let's look at the lottery real quick in terms of who was. Wow, this thing will go. Where we go. Yes, we got. I believe it was Cade Cunningham, Jalen Suggs, Jalen Green, Evan Mobley, Jonathan Kuminga, Jalen Johnson, Sharif Cooper, Moses Moody, Scott Barnes, Keon, Corey Kispert, Zaire, Franz Wagner, and then Jaden Springer. Do y'all think that this is the 14 best guys, or do you think that these will vary based on like who's in like like certain spots?
Yeah, I do think that you probably got 14 of the best like 17 dudes. I think there were no reaches, right? Like I think once you get past maybe pick 6 or so in this draft, it's kind of all about what a team wants and who they prefer over the next guy, right? Like the talent levels are all pretty close. Like we're going to go through and get into the 20s, and we're going to have guys that maybe someone else would prefer to be in the lottery. That's just kind of the way this draft is. It's really deep, and I think it's got a lot of guys who can contribute at a high level in the NBA.
For everybody, that was our lottery. We're going to cut that right here for all you guys, so it's not a crazy long video. For everybody else wanting to hang around and get all the picks, stay tuned. So Chip was there, and then I believe I'm next.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Toronto Raptors. Man, I feel like they need players from everywhere. Like their age caught up with them so quickly here. And I wish that there was like a really good guard here to give them. Like Boston has been kind of like a letdown. You know what? I'm going to go with a guy that I think has a lot in common with Fred VanVleet, and that's James Boatnight here. He's got pretty good size, 6'5", and he's just like an awesome scorer as well. I think he would fit in really, really well there. And he's really proven a lot this year. He came back for his second year. He's improved, but for some reason, he's not getting like as much love as he should. And I think him going there would be awesome.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, he's definitely a lottery talent. I realize he's just going one pick outside of the lottery, but insane athlete, really productive. The 3-point shooting slipped a little bit as the volume went up this year. But the free throw shooting is well into the 80s, so you feel good about his touch and the development of the shot as it goes. Probably not going to give you, not necessarily going to be ever known as a defensive stopper, but he's got the athleticism, and if he's locked in, he shouldn't have a problem staying in front of guys. So big-time athlete, big-time scorer, really high-level producer. I like this guy a lot. I actually wouldn't hate him if this is who the Grizzlies ended up with.
Yeah, just one thing to look at with James coming into the NBA, he's basically just a scorer. But I think one thing that would give him a huge leg up in the NBA is if he can sort of develop the facilitating part of his game. He has more turnovers than assists in his career so far, so it's not looking good for that. But I think he has the potential to become that kind of guy, and instead of just being a scoring option, sort of become like a lead guard.
Yeah. All right. So I believe Frank is next. You got the Charlotte Hornets.
The Hornets. Well, they nailed last year, didn't they? Let's see who we compare with Ball. I think they've got young guys all across the board, really. They're pretty loaded up on guards right now. They have P.J. Washington at the 4. So really what they need is a big man or possibly a wing. They really just have Miles Bridges, who's kind of, inconsistent night to night, hasn't really become the NBA player that everybody was expecting him to be. Same with Malik Monk. He's been in the league for, I think, 6 years now and is just now sort of starting to make a little bit of a splash this past season with some scoring. But, still I don't think those guys are in their plans for the future with LaMelo and PJ. So I'm going to look at a wing here. We've already taken Moses Moody, correct?
Yeah, he's
off the board. I think a good guy for them would be Cameron Thomas. Okay. 6'4", shooting guard at LSU. He's a shot maker. He's pretty good from 3-point range. He sort of has that natural ability to just play the game. I'm not really sure how he profiles as an NBA prospect. Y'all could probably speak better to that, but just fit wise, I think they do need a guard. So I'm going to go with Cameron Thomas.
Yeah, Cam Thomas is an interesting one. He's obviously a big-time scorer at LSU and can create his own shot, and that's one of the most valuable skills you can have in terms of being an effective offensive player. So I definitely think that there's some questions. I always look at NBA guys and think, all right, you're obviously not going to be playing the same role you did in college, especially a guy like Cam Thomas, because he's relied on to really be the scorer night in, night out. So, what role does he slide into, especially early on as his game develops at the next level? So I think that's the biggest question. But, the way that guy plays on the offensive end, he's going to be able to score at the next level. And so I think you just start from there and build off that, and you see what you can end up with a guy like him.
Yeah, I mean, you just kind of hope that he's not another a Deion Waiters or something. That, he comes in and he thinks that, from day one that he is the top player and stuff and everything, and hopefully his ego is not an issue. I mean, a lot of his production has come out of need because their team's not very good, and so he's gotten there's free reign to take every shot, which is why his efficiency's not too great. But he'll get drafted. I mean, he's obviously talented, as you said. He's a good scorer, and coaches always need a guy like that. So as long as his head is in the right place and his ego is not in front of him, I think he'll find a really good team here. Chip is next, I believe. Yeah,
I think so. Who do we got? The Miami Heat. Wow. Okay. Let me try to find the most Miami Heat player left on the board. Okay, I'll give him one. I'll give him. This actually is not bad. Forgive me if I butcher his name, but Usman Garuba, who's an international player, plays at Real Madrid in Spain. This guy is a total developmental player on the offensive end. He doesn't offer you a ton, but defensively, he can be really, really special. Like, I just think of the idea of him playing with Bam Adebayo and, down the line, Precious Achua, like, just offer them these big body guys who can really switch out onto wings, can switch out onto guards at times, and certainly hold their own in the post. And then I think you look at Miami, like, they are pretty well renowned for their ability to develop talent. And so there's an interesting raw prospect here that they can really work with. And so I think for Garuba specifically, it'd be great for him to go to an organization like this that's known for getting the best out of their guys, because he's playing like in the second best league in the world for a really good team. This is the team that Luka Doncic came from. And so he's been able to get minutes there, put up some, pretty modest numbers because, like I said, the offensive game is raw. But I just think the upside, the defensive potential with a guy like this is where you start taking some of those swings kind of in the back half of the first round. And so we'll send Garuba to Miami.
Yeah, I think that's a fair spot for him. Miami allows him to kind of come in like low key and not be looked to like really do anything. He could have almost like a Giannis effect where, he comes in like and plays like maybe like 8 minutes a night or something like his first year, and then slowly as he learns the game is allowed to like grow. If he goes somewhere else like the Kings or something, that they might have him play like 18 minutes immediately or something like, and then like it'll like hurt him. But yeah. But I agree. I think like Pat Riley, like a Miami and everything, has been like a really good factory down there of like really growing talent.
Absolutely.
I believe so. I'm next, right?
Yep.
Ooh, the Knicks. All right. Man.
Who's the flashiest player left? That's who you have to go with as the Knicks fan.
So just based on my own board, it's one of two players here. But like Julius Randle's been good, and like I like both of their bigs, and I kind of see Barrett more as a 3 than a 2, and they're probably going to go get a guy like Oladipo or something. But in case not, I'm going to give him Josh Christopher. I like it. He could come in immediately. That fan base would immediately fall in love with him. He has so much just swagger. I like, and I hate it because his team is not good. And it's not his fault or anything. I think that the coach there is a terrible system. They have a lot of guys who are talented and just there's so much like ISO ball there. I've watched maybe like 3 or 4 of their games, and there's so many times where Christopher will properly move and rotate and set screens and do like drop passes and stuff, whatever. And he goes and he's doing work, and his point guard just never hands the ball back to him or whatever. And so he's scoring well despite his team. I think he's a player almost like a Paul George, where once he gets around other players of his mindset and level, it's going to make him that much better. And so, but I mean, like he's like a walking bucket to me, man. Like, he's got that Carmelo Anthony, he just comes down, he just scores on people. Like at times he'll have like these crazy plays in the lane where he just outclasses people at times. I don't know. It's just awesome.
Yeah, no, that would be fun. That's a really New York Knicks pick. And like, actually a guy like the Knicks are pretty good. Like, relatively speaking, they're a lot better than what they've been. And so it actually wouldn't be a bad landing spot where he can kind of be eased into the rotation, and not necessarily thrown into the fire day one.
Yeah.
But I think he could probably play a role if he's willing to accept it in terms of, off the ball, create when needed, probably a scorer off the bench, catch and shoot type guy. Until that game kind of picks up and takes its leap to the next level, I could see that working. I'm a fan.
All right, back to Frank. Oh,
yes, we got the Celtics up next.
Yep.
Yeah. So the Celtics, they're in a position. I mean, they're obviously competing or trying to compete for a title, but they're also kind of on the back end building up some a young core to go along with Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown. But I think they are in need of a little bit of size in their front court.
Definitely.
They're playing Daniel Tice major minutes, and he's been playing pretty well, but I think they need somebody a little bit better there moving forward. Robert Williams III has been looking great recently. He kind of profiles as a guy, more and more minutes he receives, the more and more he produces. He looks great when he's out on the court. Defensively, he's stout. So I kind of look at I'm looking for a power forward. Day'Ron Sharpe from UNC. He's 6'11". I think that'd be a good pairing with the 6'8" Robert Williams. He's big, strong, not one of these dudes that kind of needs to fill out the frame. He's known for his strength and size. Great rebounder, which is something they struggle with as a team. And, a great defender, another thing that they could use. So I think he fits in well there. What do you guys think?
Okay. Yeah. So it's funny. He reminds me a lot of like Xavier Tillman in terms of like his presence like in the paint. He's he's like a traditional power forward center, old school throwback. And those guys, they have a role. They're slowly being kind of pushed out of the league, almost like dinosaurs now. But like there's certain nights where like Jonas isn't great all the time, for the Grizzlies, but every once in a while he just dominates in the paint because he's just bigger and stronger, and it's just easier for him at times. So I think a player like this, or I was actually thinking maybe like a Kai Jones or something here for Boston. Also really good size as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's 6'11". I like that Xavier Tillman comp. In college, he's been able to get out on the perimeter and guard, smaller players on pick and roll switches. So I think moving forward, if he gets selected in the NBA, I think he will be a good pick and roll threat offensively and a good pick and roll defender. So there's roles for that type of guy.
Day'Ron Sharpe from UNC, obviously big body dude, kind of, just from a physical standpoint, reminds you of Xavier Tillman. I'm higher on Tillman than I was on Sharpe coming out, but for a team like Boston, you can see him really carving out a role there. It kind of lines up with what they've done in terms of like Grant Williams. They took kind of a bigger bodied guy who you expect to be able to play in the playoffs, and the same thing with Sharpe. He's got some decent lateral movement too, so it's not going to be like every time Jonas Valanciunas gets thrown into a pick and roll, you're just terrified of what's going to happen. I don't think that's going to be a huge concern with Sharpe. So, a good pick. And like you said, they're having to play Daniel Tice a lot. And it's no disrespect to him, but you can upgrade there without trying too hard. So. Yeah,
I think your computer cut out, but like I also made the exact same thought of he's a lot like Tillman. He comes in, has a really good like a paint presence and everything, whatever. So I think I don't know how high his potential is, but he definitely will have a job.
Absolutely.
So is Chip next then?
Believe so.
Yeah. You've got the Knicks at 20.
Knicks at 20. Okay. Let's keep that theme rolling then for them. Let's give them BJ Boston, Brandon Boston Jr. from Kentucky. So at this point, you're into the 20s now in the draft. I think you're just trying to take guys that I think there's kind of two guys that fall at this part of the draft. You're either looking at guys that are maybe a little bit older and that they've been bumped down for that. That's how Grizzlies were able to get Brandon Clark, obviously, in this spot, and Tillman, Bain, exactly. So. Or you're looking at guys who came in with quite a bit of expectations out of high school and disappointed a little bit. And so BJ Boston obviously fits in that latter category. But I think you look at the profile, a 6'7", 190, 200-pound guy, in theory should be a pretty good shooter, should be able to defend. So theoretically, a nice wing, and one of the hardest things to find in the draft and in the NBA is a guy like BJ Boston. So I like his profile. The production hadn't been there. Kentucky's just been the team from hell this year. They've just, nothing's gone their way. And he's been a part of that. So you hope that he can put that aside and just move on and be a lot better pro player than he was in college.
Yeah, it's sad because he came in as like a pretty big prospect, and like Calipari, he has a great track record of like one and dones, and he just hasn't put it together this year. I don't know what's going on with him, but I agree. I mean, at this stage, I think he could be a steal. So you're really, taking him not based on college achievements, but really on what you think you could turn him into.
Right.
Which also why when Kevin Knox became available, I was like, I wouldn't mind trying to get that guy because he has such a really good package of size and skill that that maybe you can help him turn it around, and if not, it's worth a shot or whatever. So Boston, I think is a great prospect here, and pick 20 is fine, I think.
Yeah.
Right. So which means that what have I got? The Spurs? Oh no. Oh, no.
Wow.
I got to find a really Spursian pick here. So I think it's pretty obvious that Aldridge and DeRozan will either get moved or at some point not be on the team next season. So I kind of think that they need to get maybe their next level big. I'm looking at Kai Jones. He has great. He has really great size. He's a good shot blocker. His shot is not terrible. I think it's his form is good enough that it could be usable going forward. He moves his feet really well, smart player. And as long as Popovich is there for a few of his first years, I think he could really turn him into something.
Yeah, I like that's actually really, really good direction for the Spurs to go in. Good athlete too. I mean, there's a ton to like about him. He's been overshadowed, at least initially, by Greg Brown, who came in as a huge prospect at Texas, and everyone expects to be the guy. But some of the stuff that Kai Jones has done for Texas is really, really impressive. And this is such a Spurs pick. It's funny. Right? Yeah, a few years ago when they took DeJounte Murray, I was just not really the biggest DeJounte Murray. I was like, this guy has a long way to go before he's ever contributing in the NBA. And then as soon as the Spurs picked him, I was like, I need to go edit my board to throw him in the top 10 because damn, this is perfect for him. So I feel the same way about Kai Jones. This is a good spot for him.
Man, we talked about the Spurs that they drafted Keldon Johnson. I think last year or 2 years ago, whatever. And I felt good because I really liked Keldon Johnson coming out of college, and I feel like my dad's telling me, hey, awesome job. If the Spurs take that guy or something or whatever. So I'm like, okay, cool, And then since then he's looked like an all-star against us and looked okay elsewhere. But
Kai Jones is a great fit there, man. Honestly, he runs the floor well. That team loves to run the fast break with DeJounte, Keldon Johnson, Derek White. So adding another runner in the mix can't hurt.
All right, I think we're back on Frank, right?
Yep.
You got the Nuggets at 22.
Well, you stole my pick because Kai Jones, in my opinion, kind of profiles as a Jeremy Grant type guy. Just crazy athleticism, explosive defensive capability. But, I think he would have fit in there well, especially since they're sort of missing Jeremy Grant now that he's moved on to the Nuggets or to the Pistons, excuse me. But I think they do need to fill in that position pretty badly. They've got Paul Millsap playing heavy minutes late in his career. He's solid. He's great. But I think they need to look to the future. Looking at some power forwards on the board, Usman Garuba from Real Madrid. I think we talked about him earlier. Is he already off the board? Yeah. Okay. So, then next up, we got Greg Brown from Texas. I mean, another dude who big body, 6'9", 6'10" wingspan. His frame, not quite as big as Sharp, but he'd come in and make a difference with his athleticism. But I think really he needs to develop his feel for the game, and he's been adding a 3-point shot. And if he keeps hitting the three, he might even be a lottery pick. Honestly, the dude's got a lot of talent, so I like him here and fitting in with the Nuggets. Or I think he would be a great fit with the Nuggets if he continues to expand his shooting ability.
Back-to-back Texas boys.
I was going to say the run on Texas bigs. Here we go. I don't know who the next Texas big is going to be, but probably not as good as these last two. So, no, I like Greg Brown quite a bit. We just brought him up with Kai Jones. It's I think everyone expected him to be the dude with Texas this year, and he definitely has been to some degree. But the emergence of Kai Jones has overshadowed Greg Brown to a degree. But you're right; he's developing the 3-point shot. Incredible athlete for his size. He's not giant. He's 6'9", 205. So there's a lot of wings that you'll find that are roughly the same size. So if he could continue to step out and have a reliable 3-point jumper, I think that's huge for him. He's certainly got the athleticism to be able to protect the rim and stay in front of smaller guys. But I do think he's a bit of a developmental guy that'll take some time. And like you said, kind of filling in that Jeremy Grant role. Obviously, Grant was like the ultimate project who's turning out to be a 20-point per game scorer in the league. So the Nuggets is a really good organization for him to go to. Like him and RJ Hampton are two really good rolls of the dice kind of in the 20s. And if they pay off, you may have some big-time rotation guys there.
All right. So I got the Houston Rockets at 23 here. They're in like a really weird spot right now.
I'm so happy. Is this you or is this me?
Me, yeah. Oh, hold on.
No, your head's Chip.
Yes. Yeah. I'm so happy about this. I'm so happy. So it's the Rockets. This is fantastic. Okay. They're going to take Nashawn Bones Highland from VCU. If there's ever a Rockets player, it's Bones Highland from VCU. Oh. This guy takes 8 3-pointers per game. 8 3-pointers a game. He's a career 40% 3-point shooter, scoring just under 20 points a game this year. Just like a freaking badass shooter. He's perfect for the Rockets, and I'm actually really excited about this fit. This is actually a guy, like, depending on where the Grizzlies end up picking, like if let's say that they end up, getting into the playoffs, picking 15, 16, 17, somewhere in there, depending on who's left, I wouldn't mind them reaching for Bones Highland a little bit. Like, he's not a Corey Kispert level shooter or anything, but he's not super far off of that either. Like, he's a big time shooting prospect, and we all know what the Rockets love to do. Yeah. So we'll slide him in there.
Not on my radar. I had 30 to like 35 guys, and he was not one of them. So you are out.
Let's go. I'm glad I could get one of them in there.
But I will take your word that he's like an incredible shooter and stuff. And
yeah, he shot 43% as a freshman, and has been shooting it well this year. So I think, yeah.
All right, I believe then I have the Bucks in, right?
Yeah.
24. Okay. So I don't know. Drew Holiday is obviously their guard for the future. I'm not a big fan of DiVincenzo or Pat Connaughton as like that like next level wing. I think that they like really need a more consistent guy, and losing like the like Brogdon type, like Hurtem and stuff. I can't say this guy's name. I'm gonna try. It's like Ayo
Dosunmu.
Thank you. Yeah. He is just like a very veteran style guard out of like Illinois. He does everything for them. Good scorer, good playmaker. His biggest knock is like his age at this point. But I love him. I think he could come and immediately play the 1 and the 2. He's got great size and just like a really capable player. I think he would fit really, really well in there.
Yeah, I like Ayo. A guy that like coming into this season was pretty much like almost a consensus national player of the year, and has lived up to that. He's awesome on a good Illinois team. He's really the engine that makes him go. And I think getting him in the 20s is a really good spot for him. So yeah, I'm a fan. And I think at the next level, he's going to be able to play a role. And again, he's got the size. He's a wing. We talked about like this draft is just chock full of what everyone in the NBA wants, and that's wings. And this is just a guy, like if he was in last year's draft, he's probably a back half of the lottery pick. But just there's so many guys that do what he does, it pushes him further down,
Yeah, I think the Bucks have to be happy to be taking a 20-point per game college scorer here. I think, yeah. Good pick.
All right, Frank.
All right, so we've got the Clippers. The title contending Clippers. Still hate him, but I'll pick for him. I think they need size. They've got Ivica Zubac playing down low, and sort of they kind of hand off the power forward position to a few different dudes, including Kawhi. So having like an established big man, power forward, center type guy coming out of the draft might be good for them. I'm looking at Isaiah Jackson out of Kentucky. Just an exceptional athlete, has the legit size, the length that you'd be looking for out of a guy from his position. And he's just super fluid. He's got a good feel for the game. Kind of flashes some ball handling ability. Maybe he could play some three in the NBA. But, this guy's such a prospect that I think the Clippers taking him here and allowing him to develop under, this franchise that's just winning games behind Kawhi and Paul George, I think it would take a lot of the pressure off of him to produce right away. And I think it could make for a successful career for him.
I think it would be nice for him to go and learn from a guy like a Serge Ibaka, because they kind of profile.
Ibaka, yeah.
The same there. I mean, like he's a great athlete, an amazing shot blocker. His time is so great. It's just really like his biggest question mark is how does he score? He currently, he can't get his own shots. Whatever, he doesn't have a lot of that like fluid like functionality on that side. But he's such a good prospect on defense. He's obviously first round, mid-20s, like guy here or whatever. I think that, he could work very well there. Ty Lue, he really helped turn Tristan Thompson around and stuff or whatever. He could really make him go as well.
Yeah, these are definitely, again, the swings you want to take in the 20s. Like the shot blocking's there, the defending's there, the incredible leaping ability, athletic ability is there. So you just start with that base and build up from there on a team that does not need him to produce a whole lot day one. I think it makes a lot of sense. Like probably a guy that'll spend at least a year developing in the G League, which is an awesome option for these guys who come in the league a little bit raw. And then after that, you just see where he develops and where his game goes from there. But if the Clippers wanted to bring back the Lob City stuff, they've got a good start.
All right. Let's see here. Chip, you are the Lakers at 26. Lakers.
Okay. I'm going to just go best player available in my opinion here. And that's Daishen Nix from the G League Ignite. I think Daishen, he originally signed or committed to play at UCLA and ultimately decided to switch over and join Jalen Green and Jonathan Kuminga in the G League. And so the numbers are not going to blow you away from what he's done. But I think if you watch him play in the G League, he looks so comfortable running a team. And this is doing it straight from high school against grown men in the G League, putting up about 8.5 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, a steal. The shooting numbers are not phenomenal, but with his size and his command of an offense, I think that there's a lot to build off of from there. And I think he can really play off ball too. So he offers you some flexibility there. And, going to a team like the Lakers, again, they're not going to need this guy necessarily day one to come in and be a guy for them. So he can really continue to develop. There's a lot of talent to work from there. So, yeah, again, this kind of goes back to our theme of like the big guards, and this is definitely a really big guard.
Yeah, my biggest concern with him, I mean, like his numbers from three are really bad. I think he's shooting like 20% or something, but it's probably not on like high volume. And he came in overweight. That's kind of like, to me, is a sign of almost like immaturity, that he went into the bubble, I think like 20 pounds over. And it showed that his explosiveness that he had in high school wasn't here, and so he's having problems scoring because his burst is kind of being like held back right now. I think once he gets into shape, a lot of the question marks about his current like on ball speed, it's fine. But hopefully this isn't a thing going forward that he like eats himself like out of the league or something or whatever.
Yeah, you certainly hope not.
All right. So what am I? I'm the Nets. All right. I think at this point, they just need players And especially them having first round picks is going to be very, very helpful because they have 3 guys that are getting max contracts. So money is definitely going to be like a need here. I'm looking, and some size might be good, but I also just kind of want to take the guy that like I think could help them a lot. So I'm kind of in between 2 players here. I really like Jared Butler and I like David Johnson. I'm just not sure which way to go here. I think I don't want to go Jared Butler. I think having like a really good lead guard to come off the bench for them to give Kyrie Irving time to like rest is really huge. And like not only that, but with Harden being their like main point guard here, having like another guy who's like a really capable, like, you know, like on ball threat scorer is also really good. His size isn't great, but on that team, I don't think it matters. They have so many great players, and like everybody just like balls out there. I think he fits in really well with, you know, Kyrie and James and Kevin, and like a cheap, good scoring option for them.
Yeah, no, I agree. And he also brings like quite a bit of defensive ability as well. Like, so one thing that a lot of guys who pay attention to advanced stats look at as a college player is if you go back and look over time, you see guys who have a steal percentage of 2.5 or higher typically have really successful NBA careers. Like 2.5 is a high number for steal percentage. This guy this season, let me get it right. He's got a 4.3 steal percentage, which is just obscene. Like you don't see that number. And what that shows is, I think it shows a high basketball IQ because you're not getting steals if you don't understand the way offenses are run, you don't understand the way game is played. I think it's almost a way to quantify intelligence and understanding on a basketball floor. And so you got the scoring numbers. He comes from like probably the best defensive team in the country in Baylor, and he's really the leader of that. So yeah, this makes a ton of sense to me for a team that's wanting to win now.
All right, and then I believe we're back on Frank.
Yeah, we got the Sixers, my East team. All right, let's do it. So the Sixers, they're in win now mode, like a lot of the teams that we've been talking about in the back half here. But you know, they just kind of need depth. They need young depth to sort of, as free agents come and go there, they need to sort of build up a core behind their main guys. One role that I could see being sort of filled is the Shake Milton 6-man role. He's been playing great in the Doc Rivers offensive scheme. He comes in and sort of just carries the offensive burden for the bench along with like Furkan Korkmaz and just kind of gets things done. He's a great playmaker. And a guy that I look at in the draft that sort of has a similar skill set is Josh Giddey, who's a 6'8" shooting guard, kind of combo guard from Australia, wing type guy. Very skilled ball handler, has some size to make passes over smaller defenders, runs an offense well, has good decision-making, also a good shooter for his size. So I think he could come in and kind of fill in that 6-man role for them looking forward into the future. And I think he kind of has a comp similar to, or it could be compared to a guy like Shake Milton, honestly. So,
Chip,
I like it. Yeah, no, I like it. He's, dipping back into the NBL, which obviously was like the focus of last year's draft with LaMelo and RJ. Giddey's got good size. The one area of concern for me personally with him is he's right at around a 70%, sub 70% foul shooter, which if you look at foul shooting over time, it's pretty projectable for how they're going to be as a shooter, just because it shows touch. What kind of touch does a guy have on his jump shot? So that is a bit of a concern for me, but it's a 20-game sample size, right? Like I don't have historical data on what kind of foul shooter Josh Giddey is. So you just look at what you have, and that does concern me a bit. But like you mentioned, he can play make. He's got some size. Like there's some stuff to really like where down the road you could turn into a serviceable NBA player.
All right. I believe Chip is up next. This is your last pick with the Phoenix Suns.
Ooh, last pick. Okay. Phoenix Suns, who actually are maybe my favorite team to watch this year outside of the Grizzlies.
Really?
They're really fun. It's okay. I'm gonna give them another West Virginia point guard, Miles McBride. He goes by Deuce McBride. Deuce has been awesome for West Virginia on a really good team. He's a 42.5% 3-point shooter on about 4 attempts per game. Just a classic Bob Huggins point guard who projects to be able to be a shooter and a scorer at the next level. And is going to provide you plenty of defensive upside and just work his ass off, just like any of these Bob Huggins guys do. So I think you could see him being a long-term, like Tyus Jones-ish, point guard who can come in and play anywhere from 15 to 25 minutes a game, and you feel really comfortable about letting them run an offense.
Man.
McBride, I watched some clips on him. I hadn't seen any games, but
I haven't seen
he kind of, from what I saw, his game kind of reminded me of like a Kyle Lowry-esque, like just really hard-nosed, tough, plays very stout one-on-one defense, but at the end of the day is a floor general. Yeah. And, I think he could find his way in the league with that skill set.
I mean, like all those assets sound like a Bob Huggins guy, man. Like, very hard-nosed, good, like just like a smart player overall, like Javon Carter. He's very like hard-nosed and everything, whatever as well.
Exactly. Well, and Chris Paul, who knows how long he's going to be there, right? So they're going to be in the market for a point guard. So between him and Javon Carter, you hope one of those guys ends up making the leap to be a point guard of the future.
Man, okay. So the Jazz really need bench depth. I think that they are once you get past they're like top 5 guys, there's like a huge drop off there. Oh man, they really need guard play as well. Just don't know who to go with on my list here. Do I go with Johnson or do I go with, I'm gonna go with the smaller guy, Davion Mitchell. I think he's a really good point guard, awesome scorer, has a lot of talent. His biggest knock is he's just short. He's not as big as these guys now that they're all 6'4", 6'5", like we're talking about. So I mean, like he might have some issues moving forward, but I think, man, like he just has like so much like other talents and skill sets and stuff. He's super like efficient, and also learning from Conley, who's not very big, I think could also be like a huge hit for him as well.
Yeah, so I got no problem going with any of these Baylor guards. Like that team is really fun to watch, and they play their asses off. And Davion Mitchell is no different. And I don't know if you mentioned it, but the guy's he's been a big time 3-point shooter this season. That's actually a little bit of a new development for him. He's not been
right.
Yeah, it's like 45.5% on almost 5 attempts a game. So. I think actually that you look at that and you see the leap that he's made this year on a good team. I think that's actually encouraging for him at the next level where he's going to be surrounded by a lot of good players that'll open the floor up. And so if he's going to get good looks on a team like Utah, then that makes a ton of sense that shooting should carry over. And he's going to play tough, man. He's going to play tough. I like those guys.
All right, guys. Well, any last words before we get done here with this mock draft?
Oh, man, this was fun. I enjoyed it. I appreciate you guys letting me jump on here to do this. There's a couple of European big guys that I purposely didn't take because I can't pronounce their names that I think we maybe left out. Yeah. I'll attempt. Alperson Sengun and Rocco Prasen. I think both those guys could be first rounders.
Yeah,
but man, I can't. I butcher names every year, so I didn't want to look like an idiot. So
guys, like Illinois, man. So it's like So guys, we're going to do one more mock draft once the season is done, and we actually know everything going forward in terms of the actual lottery picks and stuff. And then we are planning on doing a live draft, which hopefully Chip will be able to join before be here for that, and we'll actually give you live picks and talk and reactions and stuff, whatever. We'll talk about those trades that night. It's going to be like a lot of fun. So if you enjoyed this, please hit the like button and then the subscribe button. Come back next week. week, we're going to be grading the first half for the Grizzlies in terms of how the coach has been, the players have been, GMs, everything. And then we look forward to the next half of the season. We also plan on bringing you a video for trade season. Once all that happens, we're going to break down all the trades for you. And if we can get in there early enough, we'll do our potential hopeful trades for the Grizzlies moving forward. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Please come back next week. And as always, let's go Grizz.
Let's go, Grizz.
G&G.